back to the Michael D Show. I'm so excited about our next guest, Chris Vella. He's a licensed professional counselor. His new book, just now launching this week, I Don't Want You to Leave. Why Can't You Change? Chris, welcome to the Michael D Show. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's an honor to be here.
Well, we're coming live from around the world here. I'm in Asia, you're in Canada at the moment, but where is your practice as a licensed professional counselor? Where are you located normally?
We are in Warren County, New Jersey. It's a little county about an hour west of New York City and about an hour north of Philadelphia.
On the back of the book, you encapsulate what a lot of your clients say. I don't want you to leave, but I don't know how to make you stay. If you've ever found yourself whispering those words or thinking them through tears, you are not alone. Chris talks about in his new book, a licensed family therapist brings decades of experience counseling couples through the heartbreak of broken trust, miscommunication, and unmet needs. Now, Chris, I want to know this because you told me in the green room about 50% of all marriages end in divorce globally in the US and globally, give or take which country you're talking about, but that's pretty much standard around the world. What motivated you to write the book, I Don't Want You to Leave?
Well, there's a couple of factors at play. The first original motivation was during a therapy session because I do in-home therapy in my practice. We travel to people's homes to do all kinds of different therapy based on what the need is for kids and families. And I had a 17-year-old girl that I was working with who was insisting that she brings her boyfriend to therapy because they were having some problems in their relationship, and she wanted me to do couples counseling with her and her boyfriend. And my initial thought and response to her at the time, maybe about 5 years ago, was, I really don't do couples counseling with kids, like your children, like that's it's for married folks. And God bless this girl. She was insistent, and I show up for a session, and the boy's there, and she looks at me and goes, "Chris, do your thing, do your thing." And I said, "Okay." And about 10 minutes into the session, I realized that they had no frame of reference on how to establish and maintain a relationship. And they also had really no bad habits. What was interesting, the reason they were struggling, is because they had a vision of what relationships were based on what they'd been modeled by their families and societal standards and norms that they believed were the pathway. And they were, a couple of good looking kids in the sense, cheerleader, football player types who just naturally were physically attracted to each other, but had no concept of how to actually establish and maintain a full scope relationship. So that was really kind of the first foray of where I thought, younger people who are not in relationships could benefit from a framework that is been researched and designed to establish a relationship. The other, what really kind of put me over the top and got me in front of the laptop was a therapy session, and I write about this a little bit in the book about a vignette with a family that the husband at one point looked at the wife, and it was a terrible marriage, and they were really struggling. And his wife was literally got up and said, "This is it. I'm getting divorced. I'm out the door." And he screams at her, "I don't want you to leave. Why can't you change?" Because in his mind, like many people, he didn't want the marriage to end, but he wasn't seeing the full scope of his interactions with his wife and what he was bringing to the table, and then vice versa, the wife the same thing. And a relationship, to me, is based on a term called complementarity that Salvador Minuchin, the family therapist, coined many years ago, in which she looks at relationships like a dance. One person moves, and naturally the other person is going to move with them, and then that person's movement is going to affect the other person's thoughts, feelings, behavior, and that it is this full scope back and forth that is tied to each other, as opposed to one person just strictly impacting another person independently of that person's thoughts, feelings, and reactions. So after some thought and consideration, I decided to write the book, and hopefully people at the end of the day will benefit from what's inside.
Well, you've helped so many people locally in your practice understand what's really driving their conflict and why the same fights keep happening again and again. You've helped people break toxic cycles, and you said, I want to put this into a book to help people beyond New Jersey, beyond my practice, beyond my customer base, to help people globally break the toxic cycles of blame, silence, and resentments that are killing intimacy. Learn how to communicate, be heard, not just to win, rediscover emotional safety, rebuild trust, and rekindle love. I love it, Chris, because you help couples decide with clarity whether their relationship can be restored and how to begin the healing. Now, this isn't some pious, pompous, high in the sky philosophies. These are natural, practical, tactical take home things that they can put into practice now. Now, I know you're speaking on podcasts and you're helping people retool their marriage and their relationship. What's some of the biggest takeaways and what are some of the things you're addressing on the stages as you speak and also on the podcast?
Certainly, one of the first things that I like to do is I'm a big believer in words have definitions and words have meanings, and that the human the human being has a form of communication that we call language, and in this language, no matter what it is, we assign expectations to the words that we use. We have an understanding, or we think we have an understanding. John Steinbeck famously wrote years ago, seek understanding in people, and through understanding each other, we'll have a better way of working out our challenges and differences. So one of the first things I like to do is define that word love. So many people over the years, Michael, have walked in to therapy sessions and their relationship hanging by a string, and I say to them, so why are you with this person? Right off the bat, well, I love them. And then I say to each individual, what's your definition of the word love? And interestingly enough, I rarely get the same definition. I rarely get an operational way of expressing love. Yet, love, that word love, is the standard by which people are holding each other to. So when they say, I love you, and this is our relationship is based on love. So in the book, I talk about the ancient Greeks had 6 different, or really 8, but I utilize 6 in the book, different definitions of the word love, and how a couple or an individual even can look at those definitions and incorporate them into a relationship. And when they struggle in a relationship, they can say, all right, do we have a deficit in one of these areas of the definition of love?
I don't want you to leave. Why can't you change? Available everywhere now. Books are sold. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Bookshop, eBay. Everywhere you buy books, you can grab Walmart.com, Target.com, the hardcover, the paperback, the ebook. And Chris, we've got a workbook coming out. Tell me, why are you so excited about the workbook for couples? I don't want you to leave.
I'm excited about the workbook because it will really take that next step in helping people to put a practical application on designing a relationship together, to put down on paper and to really see in front of them the things like, for example, what do you want in a relationship? Why do you want what you want? And then building that into how do you develop personal standards for yourself? How do you develop a framework utilizing those different words for love so that you're truly understanding what it is that you're seeking? So often in times, we'll go to the doctor will write out a prescription for us and say, you need to do A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z. We take it, we do it, and we feel more, or less anxious, or we feel more security in what we do. The workbook, I think, will provide people with a tangible opportunity to say, yeah, what is it I'm truly looking for? Whether you've never had a relationship before, or whether this is your third, fourth marriage, if you're struggling, it really gives you that operational, tangible way to look at what it is am I trying to accomplish. Here's my game plan. Here's how I measure my outcomes, and take a look. Do I add, subtract? Are there things I missed, didn't miss? And hopefully give people more confidence moving forward in a relationship.
Well, we're getting a lot of great grassroots feedback and testimonials about the book, and other book distributors and publishers in other countries like London, England, and in Germany and in Bangkok, Asia, are asking me for the book. When is it going to be available? It's available now. It's available everywhere books are sold. Great time for the holidays. Buy this for someone in your life. Buy it for newlywed. Buy it for somebody that's having their 20th anniversary, because it's so important to realize there's seasons to marriage, there's seasons to relationship. And Chris, your book is practical. It gets couples talking again. How do they know when to throw in the towel versus to keep working?
Yeah, that's a great point. It is I mentioned a moment ago about those standards as well as having a vision of where you'd like to take your relationship. Psychologist Jordan Peterson said a couple of years ago that every good marriage is a quid pro quo with advancement. And what I focused on, what got me was not just the this for that, the trade off, was the advancement, the where are we going, the are what are the goals you set for as a couple. It could be anything of what are we having for dinner to where would you like to retire and everything in between. Throwing in the towel, knowing when a relationship done, I think takes introspection. I think it takes discussion between the couples, but it takes, again, for me, that framework of where are we trying to advance to? What is our process like? If you're fighting over absolutely everything, such as compatibility, where one person might say, well, I don't understand why you won't go to bed, and, at 9 o'clock at night. And the other person says, well, I'm wide awake until midnight. Developing that understanding of your relationship, and if you're forcing it, or if you get to that stage where your standards are not being respected in between a couple, or even if you just recognize we are just not compatible, we have different visions on where we would like to take a relationship, if our wants and needs are getting met and appropriately getting met. And then I think as I talk about in the book, there's an honesty that hopefully will take place between a couple where if an individual realizes, listen, I just can't provide you with what you're looking for, but you deserve the opportunity to be with someone who can. That's not only noble, but I think that is very, very respectful to the other person, and including the individual making those statements, because not every relationship is going to be a lifelong relationship. But I do think that the sooner you know that and are able to detach in a healthy way, the better it'll be.
We have it cataloged under relationships, marriage, and self help. You can help yourself by grabbing a case of copies and pass out to friends and family in your reading group, your golf club, your bowling league, your sorority, your church group. I Don't Want You to Leave. Why Can't You Change? By Chris Vella. Now, Chris, you're available everywhere on podcasts and speaking stages. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, to interview you, to have you on their radio show, their TV show, or their podcast?
The easiest way is my email. I'm checking it all the time due to my line of work. Email address is chrisv9468 at yahoo.com. C as in Charles, HRIS as in Sam, V as in Victor, 9468 at yahoo.com. Best way, just send in the subject line. You can put the title of the book or speaking engagement. But as I said, I'm always on that email due to the nature of my work.
Grab the workbook, grab the book, share it with a friend, enhance your relationship, prepare your young people for relationships to understand the framework that Chris talks about. Hey, Chris, we're going to have you back when we can do a little bit of a deeper dive, have you at some of our global books events. Very excited about having you speak to our author mastermind, because relationships affect every part of our life. And we're really excited about your book launching everywhere. Congratulations for going #1 on Amazon. I Don't Want You to Leave. Why Can't You Change? Everywhere books are sold. Now, a final word, Chris, to somebody that just found you. What would you say to them?
I would say check out the book, reflect on it, have courage, be optimistic. Relationships to me are exciting. They can be, they're like music. The notes can be really, really high and the lows can be really, really low. But if you're just checking it out for the first time, keep an open mind. Talk to people about what you read, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. People that you trust, their feedback, and again, be optimistic. It's exciting for me.
That's outstanding, Chris. Congratulations. Thanks for being on the Michael D Show. And Beyond Publishing is proud to announce that your book, Chris, is ready for launch. And we're expecting great things. And we're hearing great feedback. I Don't Want You to Leave. Why Can't You Change? Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Michael.